Sup, guys? I don't know how many of you degenerates are up this late, although maybe it's earlier for some of you who aren't on the East Coast like me where it's 1 a.m. I don't expect anybody to be in the chat, but I just got home and I'm like, I gotta put this NFL video out. It's probably going to be quick, really, because one of my NFL plays already finished. I'm on the verge of a winning day here. It's probably going to be 3-2 because Texas Tech is not going to hold up their end of the bargain, even though last I checked, they were outgaining Washington State, and they're still losing the game. Losing the turnover battle, although only by one. Whatever, I'll rant about the losses tomorrow. I think Arizona State is on my TV right now. I don't even know. It's some game that's beyond over. It's some blowout. I think it's Arizona State. Doesn't matter. Let's talk NFL. I think, like I said, this is going to be quick. I don't really think I'm going to comment on many of the other games because week one, a lot of it is just hard to read. I have two plays, which I think we already know what these plays are going to be. Actually, hang on. I'm going to delete my college football plays from today from the banners and put my NFL ones in real quick just so I have them. I got to have the banners, man. You guys, you want this great production quality, right? Let's get this in there. I don't even remember what my plays are, to be honest. Actually, I think we may have lost a little bit of value on some of these, but not enough that I would say we shouldn't play these or anything like that. All right, let's get into the NFL card here, man. For week one, as you know, I already had the Philadelphia Eagles, which already cashed on the Friday night game. So we're going to talk Sunday and Monday here. And I do have a play on the Monday night game as well. I usually talk about the night games anyway because they're just the primetime games they get talked about. But I just happen to have a play on the Monday night one. I happen to have a lot of plays on the primetime games, actually, because a lot of times you can get more value on those in the NFL because the odds makers kind of have to skew the number knowing that there's going to be this big public influx of betting on the primetime NFL games. Look at this NFL card for week one, man, and this is like, I honestly don't know what to think about a lot of these, and you can see, if you know how I read the markets by now, where I kind of look for where has the line moved, like what direction has it moved, that kind of tends to indicate to me that there's been money coming in on the side on that side, the direction where the line has moved. I look at ticket versus cash discrepancy to see, oh, well, there's a high ticket percentage here, but less high of a cash percentage, which tends to indicate to me that the cash is coming in on the other side. So like Jaguars, Dolphins, for example, I'm not playing this game, but I do lean to the Jaguars in this one. Dolphins are down from 5 to 3.5, though, at home. They're very public, 75% of the tickets, but only 69% of the cash. A lot of this is because, of course, the recreational bettors, the public, they're going to come in and just react to what they saw last season, and specifically the end of last season where the Dolphins were quite good. They're a high-scoring offense. The public loves those high-scoring offenses, and then they just got shut down by Kansas City. But I think the public's going to say, well, it was Kansas City. They won the Super Bowl. It was an ice-cold environment. It was like the coldest game in NFL history, so the Dolphins just couldn't do it there. But, of course, this is in Florida, so the Dolphins, they're going to be back to the Dolphins that we know and love, right? The Dolphins with Tua and Tyreek Hill, and they're just going to be lighting up the scoreboard. I think that's what the public's going to think, and the public is, I think, going to be kind of off of the Jacksonville Jaguars right now because they looked really bad down the stretch last season. But if you remember, Trevor Lawrence got hurt, and even though, yes, he did come back and he played in some of those games down the stretch, he was obviously playing hurt, dude. He was not at 100%. He did not look right at all for the remainder of those games. I don't think he should have been playing, but I think he should be healthy. He's got to be, right? He's had the offseason to recover now. I expect the Jaguars to kind of return to form here, and I think they have the better defense. I mean, there aren't too many defenses worse than Miami's, unfortunately for them. I don't see Miami's defense as being like monstrously improved from last year where they were just very bad. Even though they had one of the best offenses, they had one of the worst defenses. So you're giving me Jaguars plus the points with the better defense, so I do lean that way. And there is some stat on teams that didn't make the playoffs in week one up against teams that did make the playoffs last year. The teams that didn't make the playoffs cover in week one, cover the spread against teams that did make the playoffs at like a 60% rate or something like that. I think almost. It's some really ridiculously high rate. So you do want to look for teams that didn't make the playoffs playing up against teams that did in week one. It is a winning bet, like long term. It has been a winning bet at least going back, like I think probably, I don't know, several years at the very least. If I'm trying to remember all these stats that I've had implanted in my brain, basically. And I also do lean to the Panthers against the Saints. Saints down from 5-4 here. Nobody's going to want Carolina, I don't think, even though only 51% of the tickets, I guess, are on the Saints. Panthers, 63% of the cash, though. So this looks like the cash discrepancy is definitely on the Panthers side, and line has moved in that direction. Nobody likes what they saw out of the Panthers last year, man. And everybody thinks Bryce Young is a bust. Everybody thinks the Saints are going to have like this bounce back year. I mean, they definitely do have some talent, but I don't trust Derek Carr very much at all. And I think the Panthers, the Panthers, I think they should improve, but they also fall into this week one against the spread stat where divisional underdogs also do really well in week one. So when it's a divisional game, the underdog tends to cover in week one. And I think they cover it like a rate that's like in the higher 50-something% range. So I think they cover at a profitable rate as well. So you do want to tend to look toward divisional underdogs as well in week one. And that would be a category that the Panthers fall into. So I do lean that way as well. I don't know if I have any other leans that I want to really talk about that I would consider to be that strong. A lot of these games really just mess with my mind, man. I mean, those are the ones that I think are the strongest of the leans that I have that aren't actual plays for me. And then the next strongest, maybe I would say, would be to lay the points with the Seahawks. Seahawks are hosting the Broncos. Seahawks are up from 5-6 with juice. So that line is headed up higher, man. 66% of the tickets are on the Seahawks, but 78% of the cash. So even though they look like they're a little bit public, it does look like there is some legitimate movement coming in on the Seahawks side. And I think that's because the Broncos are in the dreaded rookie quarterback situation, which I'm about to talk about with one of my actual plays in a second. Rookie quarterbacks are also a play against in week one, man. Quarterbacks that are starting as a rookie in week one, they don't have a good track record. And I think the number that I saw was, I don't know if it was against the spread. I think it was against the spread, or I don't know if it was against the spread or straight up. I forget which one it was. I actually think it was straight up. I think rookie quarterbacks are 0-8 in the last 8 years or so. I forget how far back it goes, but rookie quarterbacks do not have a good record in week one. So that applies to the Broncos, and it does apply to the Redskins as well, and it applies to the Bears. So you can probably take a guess which one of those teams I'm fading. But I do lean to the Seahawks in this one. I think it's going to be a tough environment, man, for Bo Nix to have to go into with Denver, his first NFL regular season start. I mean, people were hyping him up because he looked pretty good in preseason when he played, but this is a different environment, man. This is Seattle. This is Quest Field or whatever. This is the 12th man. That crowd is going to be loud for the opening day, man. I mean, everybody has their hopes up high for week one. I think the crowd is going to show up, and I expect Bo Nix to struggle a bit in that one. So I do lean to the Seahawks. And plus, it's new quarterback, and Broncos are still dealing with a new offense with Sean Payton, I think, in his second year now. And usually you see that turnaround kind of start happening a couple more years in than that, like maybe 3 years or so, I'd expect it. I don't see much coming from the Broncos in that first game in week one. Lean to the Seahawks. Jaden Daniels, I actually think, might surprise some people in this game with Washington against Tampa Bay. I don't want to actually play Washington, but Tampa Bay is down from 4 to 3.5 with 61% of the tickets on them. And this also falls into the scenario where Tampa Bay is a playoff team from last year up against a non-playoff team in the Redskins. So you would tend to want to look to lean towards the Redskins for that reason as well. And they do have 60% of the cash on them there. But yeah, I think Jaden Daniels, again, he could surprise some people. You could see a massive turnaround in kind of a quick period of time for this Redskins team because they were just pathetic last year, really. And they've revamped their offense quite a bit, and I kind of expect them to do a bit better. I think they have some coaching changes there too, so we'll see what happens there. I'm not like a huge fan of the Buccaneers necessarily as far as them being like a bet on team. Like I think they overperformed a little bit last year, to be honest. Baker Mayfield, I'm not certain that he's really that good. He did have some pretty good weapons around him last year, and they had a good defense last year as well. So I don't know. But I do lean to Washington in that one, but it's not a strong lean by any means. And then I thought I was going to talk about one other game. Well, Steelers-Falcons, I don't really have a lean on this, but it is just interesting that this is the battle of the quarterbacks that have found new homes, with Russell Wilson starting for the Steelers and Kirk Cousins starting for the Falcons. I don't know what you can expect out of either of them, man. Cousins is coming back from an injury, and Russell Wilson, it's possible that we're seeing the end of his career, man. I'm not quite sure that we're going to see a turnaround from Russell Wilson. Falcons are up from 3 to 3.5 with juice, so the line has moved through that key number. Like, moving through the key number of 3.5 does indicate to me that there is some money on the Falcons side coming in, even though you do see 64% of the tickets on them, but only 56% of the cash. So it looks like the cash discrepancy is against them. So some kind of conflicting indicators there on that Steelers-Falcons game in the market there. So I won't touch it, but we'll see what happens with that one. And then, of course, Patriots also have a rookie quarterback in Drake May starting. Bengals are a huge favorite, though, but they're down from 9 to 7.5 with juice. 92% of the tickets are very, very public. People expecting the Patriots to be one of the worst teams in football. People expecting the Bengals to be back because Joe Burrow is back, and 94% of the cash also on the Bengals. I wouldn't want to lay the points with the Bengals, though, even though they are up against a rookie quarterback. It's just, they're just way too public for my liking, really, is what it is there. I can't do that. And, yeah, I think that was going to be it. And then, of course, Chargers. I mean, they have Harbaugh there now, as he has left the University of Michigan, and he is the new coach at the Chargers, but they've lost some of their offensive weapons. They've lost Keenan Allen. They've lost Austin Eckler. Justin Herbert was hurt for a large portion of the season last year, and he is back now. So we should expect the Chargers offense to do better than it did without Herbert towards the end of that season last year. But how good will they be? I don't know. And in that game, they're down from 4 to 3 as a home favorite against the Raiders, with the line almost kind of indicating that these teams are about even power ratings wise. Oh boy. Raiders, we may see a little bit of an improvement out of the Raiders. I'm not so sure. 60% of tickets on the Chargers, though. The public is still thinking that the Raiders suck, basically, and thinking that the Chargers have that good offense back with Justin Herbert. But again, with a new coach there, trying to implement a new system, we could see some growing pains with the Chargers there out of the gate. I don't know. 72% of the cash on the Chargers, though. That one's a tough one for me to read as well. And then we will look at the night game, I suppose. We'll talk about that with Rams-Lions, because I always talk about these primetime games. Lions are up from 3 with juice to 4.5 now. So we've seen some significant line movement, looks like, on the Lions side. 59% of the tickets are on the Lions. 77% of the cash, though, on the Lions. So more of the cash coming in on the Lions. This is a playoff revenge scenario, though, for the Rams. I don't know if I would necessarily want to play the Rams in this one, but everybody remembers this is like an exact rematch. The Rams lost at Detroit in the playoffs last year. And I remember the public kind of liking the Rams there. I remember being on the Lions in that one. I think the Lions should have covered but didn't cover, the -3 or whatever it was. But the Rams, they're going to remember the Lions eliminated them last year. So the Rams may have a little bit of extra motivation for that with the playoff revenge, but that didn't work well for Baltimore. So I don't know. It's not something that I've considered to be strong enough to actually make a play on. And the market does look, like I said, to be indicating on the side of the Lions more so. And we could see some more improvement out of the Lions, really, if nothing else. And the Rams may take a little bit of a step back defensively because Aaron Donald, I believe, has retired now. But I don't know how much of a factor that's going to be. I mean, he was a dominant presence on their defense, but I don't expect the Rams defense to just completely become terrible in one swoop like that. So I don't know. We will see what happens in that game. It's an interesting one. The total actually seems quite high to me, up from 51 to 52.5, but juice to the under. 71% of the tickets on the under because the public's going to come in and play, or on the over, excuse me. Public's always going to come in and play overs, especially in these primetime games, but 87% of the cash. So more of the cash than the tickets are actually on the over, and the line has actually gone up a little bit. Man, that seems like a high total for me, though, especially given what that playoff game looked like last year between these two. It's a little bit interesting. It's one of the higher totals on the board, too, which I look at that game and I don't think that that game is going to, like, that game doesn't on the surface look like it would be the highest scoring game to me. It's just kind of bizarre to see the line being that high. Like, maybe that the Aaron Donald factor is more than I think it is, or I don't know what the deal is. Maybe it's just because the Lions do have a really potent offense. I don't know. And the Rams offense is decent as well. Who knows? All right, let's talk about the actual plays I'm on. I've talked about most of the games on the board now, basically, for the most part. And, of course, remember, Vikings-Giants. I mean, this is the crap fest of the day, basically, with the Giants expected to be one of the worst teams in football, and the Vikings dealing with a bunch of injuries. Their franchise quarterback, rookie J.J. McCarthy, I believe, is injured for the year, so they're going to be starting who even knows. Is it Jarrett Allen? Is that his name? Is he actually going to be their starter at quarter? I don't even know. I think they signed Brett Rypien or whatever, Rypien, after the Bears dropped him, but I don't think he's going to be starting for the Vikings, right? I have no idea. Vikings have 54% of tickets on them. That's how much the public thinks of the Giants, really, that this injury-depleted Vikings team is actually still getting the public action against the Giants. And the odds makers are telling you the Vikings are the better team. They flipped from a 1-point underdog to a 1.5-point favorite with juice on the road. So the odds makers are still telling you, even with these injury issues, the Vikings are still better than the Giants as a favorite on the road. That's just crazy. And the Giants probably don't have a very strong home field advantage either. But 61% of the cash is on the Giants. So the cash discrepancy is on the Giants. Whatever. Titans-Bears is going to be my only actual play that I have on Sunday. So it's a 3-play week for me, but all spread across 3 different days. One on Friday, one on Sunday, and one on Monday. This play is on Tennessee +4. You knew it was coming. This line is down from 4.5 to 3.5 with juice now. I think the 4s are still pretty available out there right now. 53% of the tickets are on the Titans now. When I first saw this, the public was on the Bears, and it looks like maybe that's less the case now, but 60% of the cash on the Titans. I like the Titans here, man. And again, it's this rookie quarterback scenario that I just mentioned where Caleb Williams is making his first start, and he's having to do it in front of his home crowd as a favorite, and he's overhyped. Maybe not overhyped, but yeah, I would still say overhyped. He's being very hyped is what I really wanted to say. I don't want to jinx myself. He's being very hyped, and the Bears with these offseason moves are being very hyped. So he's like expected to win. The Bears are expected to win. And having those high expectations like that, you could be in line to maybe not live up to those expectations. So I'm going with the Titans here, even though the Titans have had some coaching changes. They did lose Derrick Henry, but they got Tony Pollard from Dallas, so I believe he's going to be their starting running back. So between him and Spears, who got some decent playing time last year for them, I think their running back tandem is still going to be okay. I mean, this is a league where you can plug and play at running back, even though Derrick Henry is one of the top running backs in the league, so you can't totally replace him, really, but I don't know that the Titans are really going to have that massive of a drop-off at the running back position. I think they should be decent. And then it kind of comes down to Will Levis, the Titans' young quarterback who's being given the reins now. He's shown glimpses of being a pretty good quarterback, but he's also shown glimpses of not being such. So I don't know, man. It's tough to gauge, but he is the quarterback with more experience, shockingly, coming into this game because he's also a young guy with not much experience. But Caleb Williams is being thrown into the fire, man. He's the #1 draft pick. There's all that hype on him, and I just think that you're ripe for kind of like the letdown there, so maybe not live up to those expectations. You know what I mean? The pressure is really on you when you have expectations like that. So I think that the pressure is, definitely going to be on the Bears side there. And the Bears also picked up Keenan Allen, and everybody's going crazy about that too because he's one of the best wide receivers in football. They just signed DJ Moore to a huge extension, one of the largest wide receiver contracts in the NFL and whatever. I mean, this is just, again, it's all off-season hype that I think, like, yes, this offense should be improved, but I think, again, you're kind of setting yourselves up for a bit of a letdown here, and I don't think that many people are paying attention to this Titans offense that lost their best player over the offseason, so the offseason moves have hyped up the Bears quite a bit and look really good for the Bears offense, and they don't look very good for the Titans, so that's kind of a recipe for getting value in Week 1 on the Titans, which is what I'll do. And I do think the Titans, I do think getting points in a game like this could be advantageous because I think it may be a more defensive battle in this game. The Bears, as much as they've been hyped, as much as those offseason moves on the offense have been hyped, I think the Bears' defense actually might be where they might see more improvement than anything else. But a defensive game, I tend to want to be on the underdog, the team getting points in a defensive game like that. So if this is going to wind up being a bit of a low-scoring game, I think that helps as far as taking the underdog as well, taking the points. It means the points are worth a little bit more. So I like the Titans. And then as far as Caleb Williams, like how good do I think he's actually going to be? I think it's questionable, man. I mean, you never know with these like really high draft picks. And Caleb Williams, I didn't like how he responded to adversity when he was at USC. I mean, they did not have a good season last year. It was like once they got punched in the mouth and lost a game or two, they like never recovered really. So I wasn't impressed by that. And I'm not sure about his toughness, to be honest. And then people are hyping the Bears up. This is the other part. The other factor coming in here is the Bears have looked insane in preseason. So they're getting all this hype because they went 4-0 in preseason. And I think they beat basically all good teams. I forget who they played in that first game, the Hall of Fame game. Oh, yeah, Houston Texans. So they beat Houston, but you can throw that game out because none of the starters played on either side. Williams didn't play. So I think the Hall of Fame game you can just ignore completely. And it was shortened by like severe thunderstorms or something because the NFL has been so like pussified now that we get some storms and we just stop playing. Oh, hi JC, what's up, man? You're my only viewer. I think. Oh no, I have 2 viewers. All right, at this late an hour, I'm not scheduled and just randomly doing this because I have to get this NFL video out after I was at a concert. So, which is usually the case on Saturdays, to be honest. But anyway, yeah, the Bears, I mean, they're preseason. Then after that Hall of Fame game, which we can just throw out, they beat in succession Cincinnati, Buffalo, and Kansas City. So people are going to look at that and think, holy crap, the Bears just beat like 3 of the best teams in the AFC during preseason. But again, slow your roll, man. It's preseason. Like, I think if you're hyping up the Bears off of that, I think, yeah, you got to slow down a little bit. I mean, and let's look at what actually happened in those games. So it's preseason, so the starters aren't going to play the entire game, for one thing. Teams are going to probably show less of what they're really going to do offensively because they don't want to give things away, and they're not going to play as intense defensively and whatever because they really don't want to get guys hurt. So preseason, you can kind of just throw it out, but in this case, I think it's causing the Bears to be much more hyped than they should be. In the Cincinnati game, Caleb Williams started the game, I believe, with 3 straight 3-and-outs. So the first 3 drives with him at the helm all went 3-and-out. Then they scored a field goal on the next drive, but the entire drive was basically a pass interference penalty that I think was some massive amount of yards on the pass interference call. It set them up in a situation where they probably should have scored a touchdown, and they didn't even move the ball further. So basically you had 3 drives where Williams didn't even advance the ball for them. 4 drives in a row where they basically didn't advance the football at all. Got a field goal on that, and then they did finally have 1 touchdown drive where Williams had one pretty big play, 1 good play. Then Tyson Bagent came in, and I think he lit it up, and he got them at least 1 scoring drive, I think. But I might be confusing that with the Kansas City game because I know the Buffalo game, because I know in the Buffalo game, Caleb Williams also started the game, and I think he may have led them to 1 scoring drive or 2 scoring drives or something like that. It might have been 1 touchdown. Then Bagent came in and was lighting it up, man, even though, of course, it was against probably 2nd-string, 3rd-string defenses at that point. But Bagent looked better than Williams throughout preseason, man. Bagent was really lighting it up. And, of course, he's the one of the 2 that has a bit more experience. And then in the game against the Chiefs, the final preseason game, the starters didn't play again. So Caleb Williams didn't play in that game either. So he only played in 2 preseason games, and I think at most he led them to 2 touchdown drives across those 2 games and didn't really advance them downfield very much at all. So I think the questions are still there big time for Caleb Williams. I think that if anybody's talking him up based on that preseason performance, I don't think they should be because it was really not very impressive. So long way of saying Tennessee Titans +4 is the play on that one. And unfortunately, yeah, I did miss the 4.5 on that one. Where I didn't miss the 4.5 is on the Monday night game where I am playing the New York Jets. Oh, help me. New York Jets +4.5 is going to be this one. And this one We did see some higher numbers like during the offseason at some points where I think the 49ers, this line was kind of all over the place. It opened 5, and then I think it was actually up to 6, maybe even 6.5. But if it doesn't hit 7, you're still kind of in like no man's land as long as it's like 4.5, 5, 5.5, 6 even. Like that's all kind of no man's land there, and those are not as key as 7, 4, and 3 are in the NFL. So the fact that you can get 4.5, I don't know if you can get 4.5 or just 4 now, but I don't mind either of those plays really. I think that's still decent enough. The 49ers, we see the market indicating on the Jets, man. The 49ers are down from 5 to 4. Tickets evenly split 50-50. I'm surprised the 49ers aren't getting all the public action because everybody knows how good they are. And the Jets have 56% of the cash on them. So the Jets do have more of the cash on them. I think when we saw the 49ers up to like 6, 6.5, the line was bouncing all over the place. I think just because we didn't know exactly what the personnel was going to be. And I think the 49ers had some potential injuries. And I think it all amounts to the starters are basically going to be in this game. The 49ers aren't going to have Pearsall, though, who was one of their draft picks. He's a rookie wide receiver, but I don't know if he was going to be like a huge part of their offense. But he got robbed and shot in a situation where I think he was wrestling the gun away from the robber, too, and the robber also wound up getting shot in the incident as well. But they both survived. But, man, the streets of San Francisco, you don't want to be there, man. Pearsall, I mean, it's crazy. I mean, I shouldn't be laughing, but it's just insane how often shit like this happens. But, I mean, I hope he gets better. It seems like he should be ready to play like a few weeks into the season. I don't think it's going to have that much of an effect on this offense. What's up, Nancy? But, yeah, so the only thing that like worries me a little bit is that shooting going to like motivate the 49ers at all? Like, are they going to be like pumped up like to play for this guy, for their rookie wide receiver who took a bullet? I don't know, because he is going to be fine. So I don't know. It is almost kind of like an injury situation at that point. So it's not going to take me off of the Jets, but I had already played the Jets before that happened. So I don't know. But as I said earlier, this also is going to fall into the scenario where you have a playoff team, the 49ers, up against a non-playoff team from last year, the Jets. So that's also an advantageous play to make in week 1. You want to take the points with the team that is an underdog that did not make the playoffs last year. So that we have that going for us with the Jets as well. That's like a positive expected value play there long-term in the NFL. So I like that. And the Jets, I mean, everybody's off of the Jets because their offense was so bad last year. But people, I think, kind of forget, and the public just doesn't like good defenses. But people also forget that the Jets had one of the best defenses in football, man. I mean, their offense was so bad last year, and they still like almost made the playoffs with basically a non-existent offense. Because, of course, everybody remembers tons of preseason hype on the Jets, and Aaron Rodgers tore his Achilles on like the first play of the game, basically, and was just gone for the entire season right away. Jets had to play the entire season basically without a quarterback. I mean, they had, what was his name in there? Zach Wilson. I mean, he's not a guy who's going to come in and get the job done. And then I think they replaced him with some even worse quarterbacks and then went back to Wilson, and it seemed like the clubhouse was kind of in disarray and whatever. But now Aaron Rodgers is back, man. And that season last year, if anything, tells you how good the Jets defense was, because they were still a competitive team with one of the worst offenses in football. Their defense was one of the best, and that defense is still pretty intact. They should still have one of the best defenses, but now with Aaron Rodgers back, they may actually have a capable offense as well. Even though he's older, he is still Aaron Rodgers, and he might still have something left, and he might be playing with a chip on his shoulder now because he is returning from injury, and he wants to get something done here, and he does have some weapons around him. And we also have on the thing going for the Jets here, we also have one of those weapons being Breece Hall, who is one of the best running backs in football. And the 49ers struggle to stop the run, man. That was one of their weakest points on their team last year, was their run defense wasn't very good. And the Jets have the capability to exploit that with one of the best running backs in the NFL, Breece Hall. So I like that as well. And if they're able to establish the run with Hall, that should be able to open things up for Aaron Rodgers, and they still have Garrett Wilson there, who is a very talented wide receiver as well. So they do have offensive weapons there. They just need that capable quarterback there, man. I think the Jets can surprise some people. I think they have a chance to win the AFC East this year too, man. If these guys stay healthy, they just have their defense is legitimately that good, and they just need that offense to be decent. So I like all that, and on top of all that, I like the fact that the 49ers are in what is also a historically bad spot here, the dreaded Super Bowl hangover spot, where the loser of last year's Super Bowl tends to not play well in week 1, and they don't cover the spread at a very high rate. So you want to fade that team as well. So we have that going for us too on the Jets. So we're going to fade the 49ers in that spot there as well, where everybody remembers it, man. The 49ers made it all the way to the Super Bowl last year, and they feel like, I even feel like they're good enough. I mean, I had the 49ers in the Super Bowl. I think they're good enough to win the Super Bowl. I think they might be the best team in the NFL. Maybe even again they might be, but they just haven't been able to do it. They've been to the Super Bowl twice and lost to the Chiefs both times, and they keep getting back there over and over again. And I think it takes its toll a little bit. Jets have had a little bit more time to kind of recoup from last year, so they're not going to be in that massive hangover spot like the 49ers might be. So I like all of that too, man. And with Aaron Rodgers there, I might actually say the Jets actually have the better quarterback out of these two teams, because I'm not sold on Brock Purdy, man. I'm sorry to say. The 49ers, they have a very balanced team. They have good defense except for their running defense, their rush defense, and they have a lot of talent on this offense surrounding Brock Purdy. But I think that lifts Brock Purdy up, because I think he's a kind of mediocre quarterback, to be honest, and I think the offense just kind of lifts him up and does better than they should. And I think that was the case when they had Garoppolo, too. I don't think Garoppolo is that good either. This 49ers offense is just so stacked with talent, with, McCaffrey, Debo, Ayuk, all that stuff, man. I just think that it makes Purdy look better than he actually is. But the 49ers, undoubtedly, they do still have the better offense out of these two teams. But if it comes down to more of like a defensive battle, the Jets do have the better defense of these two teams, at least based on what we saw last year and with the players who were coming back from last year. You're giving me the better defense getting points in this game with the Jets against the team that's a little bit more public and a little bit more overhyped in the 49ers. So for all those reasons, man, I do like the Jets here. And I don't know if that Ayuk situation is going to be in the 49ers' heads too. Probably not. I think if that was going to be a distraction, I think it's been put away, because he seemed to be threatening to leave the team or something. There was some contract dispute there, but I guess it's been put to bed, and he is going to be there to start the season, and they have resolved whatever issue that was. So I guess that won't be a distraction coming into the season. And then I guess I'll leave on, you do also have a lot of the like talking heads, the pundits seem to be saying that the Jets locker room is in some kind of disarray and that they don't like Aaron Rodgers, and that Aaron Rodgers missed 2 days of mandatory mini camp or something. But I don't think that's that uncommon a thing for a star quarterback to be allowed by the team to miss a couple of days of mini camp that's mandatory for the other players. It's not like he just wasn't there during the preseason at all. He's still been there practicing with the team, and I think that all of that talk, I think, is just BS pretty much, and just being either totally misconstrued or it's just being oversold completely, because I don't think that this team dislikes Aaron Rodgers. I think they do like Aaron Rodgers. I mean, I saw they were the Hard Knocks team last year, so we got to see them in Hard Knocks, and it seemed like the team liked having Aaron Rodgers there. I don't know. This talk, honestly, I think it's all biased because of Aaron Rodgers' political stances and his rejection of the vaccine or whatever. I actually think that people are so biased politically, they have to confirm that bias and find any reason that they can to hate Aaron Rodgers. And I think that stuff just isn't there. These people want it to be the case that the Jets hate this guy. He's so bad. He's so evil. They hate Aaron Rodgers. But I just don't think that's the case. He's a veteran quarterback. He's going to be a Hall of Fame quarterback. These guys definitely have respect for Aaron Rodgers, man. These guys play in the NFL. They play the game of football, so I don't think that's the case either. Jets plus 4.5, baby. All right. This video was longer than I thought it would be with just 2 plays, although it felt longer than it was. It's only been a little bit over a half hour. So those 2 plays one more time for me for the NFL. Tomorrow, Tennessee +4 and New York Jets +4.5 Monday night. That's my NFL card this week, besides the Philly game that already won last night. that's going to do it for me, man. Oh, holy crap. You guys are spamming the comments, man. You guys are doing an end tower? What's going on here? Yeah, that's right. You guys can follow my my gambling. I'm on a decent run right now. I think I'm on a run of like 5 winning days in a row or something like that right now. And I don't think Texas Tech turned it around for me to give me a 4-1 day, but I almost went 4-0 in college football today. I went 3-1, but you can still go and see what my analysis was on those games if you want to. I think it's going to be 3-1 in college football today and the 0-1 in baseball. So a 3-2 day, it's still a win. It's not what I wanted, especially with the college football doing so well today, but it is what it is. It is still another win for today. Thanks for hanging out in the chat. Finish that tower, actually, before I get out of here. JC and Nancy. Even though we usually don't allow repeat letters from the same person because we only have 2 people here. It's a 2-person show. I actually have 5 viewers. Holy crap, man. I'm almost as popular as Tower Gang now, right? Just by myself. 5 viewers. It's the best that I've done so far with these live streams. 6. Holy crap. You guys are flooding the stream. Let's go. But I'm about to end it, man, because I got to actually sleep a little bit here because I've not been doing that. I'm Tower Gang Toad. You know who I am. Put that R in, or maybe I'll just finish it off if you want me to. I'll finish the tower off. Yeah, there we go. There's the end tower. Better off dead, baby. Follow me, Tower Gang Toad, on Twitter, and follow the Tower Gang podcast. Subscribe to the Patreon. Love you too, Nancy. Subscribe to the Patreon like JC does, I believe. I don't know if Nancy also does, but do that. You get to hang out in the Telegram chats with us. You get extra content for Tower Gang, which is, if you don't know, the most offensive comedy podcast on the planet. We're live every Wednesday night, 9:11 p.m. We're going to have the 9/11 episode on 9/11 coming up on Wednesday. Oh, boy. It's going to be wild. Show up for that. We'll have to plan something for that. Patreon.com/TowerGangPod, I believe, or maybe just Tower Gang is where you can throw us some money there, and then you get that extra content. We live stream the pre-shows for the Patreons. We live stream we have a post show after the show, which is really just additional content. It's just extra Tower Gang, basically. So go do that as well. And you get that Telegram where you can talk to me about more of these bets and whatever as well. It's going to do it, man. Let's have a good NFL week, I guess. Peace out.